I was awake when the dead boy climbed into my bed. It was 2 a.m. The power had just cut again, plunging the hostel into a silence so thick you could hear your own heartbeats. I lay perfectly still, drenched in sweat, too scared to even lift the covers. I had just returned from the bathroom when I saw him, half lit by moonlight, wearing the old St. Bartholomew's uniform, grey shorts, torn tie, and the school's referred crest stitched in red. Not gold. He didn't knock, didn't speak. He just climbed in, bone by bone, like someone who had done it before. The mattress dipped beneath his weight, and I could feel the cold stretch across my legs as he pulled the sheets over himself. His voice was barely above a whisper, yet it cut through the room like a blade. We have to finish the exams. I turned to face him. There was no one there, but the bed was still soaking, and the pillows beside mine were soaked in blood. 3 weeks earlier, I didn't believe in ghosts. When I first arrived at St. Bartholomew's College, the air smelled like old stone, wet uniform, and secrets. I had just transferred from a day school in Owerri after my mother's job was located to Lagos. I didn't want to bud, never liked being away from home. But St. Bart's had a reputation for strict discipline, elite success, and godly decorum. My mother's words, not mine. I remember standing at the gates that first day, my hands buried in my sleeves, suitcase dragging behind me like a reluctant pet. The security man gave me a long look, muttered, "God help you," and waved me through. I thought he was just being dramatic. I was placed in Leola House, but seniors called it the last stop. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it wasn't. I hadn't even unpacked before I heard it. Whispers about Block D. From the moment I arrived, there was one rule everyone whispered. Even the staffs never spoke it aloud. Don't go near Block B. You can walk past A, B, C, but D was different. Don't go near it. Don't even look too long. Some students say you can still hear them coughing. I laughed at first. Nigerian students love gist. A few missing bricks and rustled padlocks, and suddenly you get a haunted dome. But the more I listened, the more specific the stories got. Names, years, descriptions of uniforms burned into bodies. One boy swore he saw smoke leaking through the cracks of the bricked-up building. Another claimed his cousin had disappeared after sneaking in. Block D wasn't just closed, it was sealed, brick and mortar from top to bottom. Windows cemented, doors plastered over. The only sign it ever existed was a plaque above the front steps, dedicated to the SS3 students of 2001. May they find peace. That was what made it worst. It wasn't abandoned, it was entombed. The official story, as shared by the ever-bored librarian, was this. Back in 2001, a gas heater used during the Harmattan exploded in the middle of the night. Carbon monoxide leaked through the vents while the students slept. By morning, every boy in the senior dorm was dead. 32 of them, all gone. The school had no choice but to wall the place off and build new dorms. The principal at that time resigned. Some say he went mad, others say he joined the priesthood. I thought that was the end of it, a tragedy turned legend. Then the homeworks began. It started with a test stuck into my locker, a torn sheet dated April 5th, 2001, titled English Language SSCE Revision. The name at the top, Chuka Nadi. It wasn't mine, I tossed it away. 2 days later, a physics diagram appeared on my desk, one I couldn't explain, sketched in faded blue ink, the kind that looked like it had been copied by hands dozens of times. I asked questions from a syllabus no longer in use. By one point, Henry joked about ghosts being academically persistent. I didn't laugh. I hadn't told him that the questions haunted my dreams. That night, I saw boys scribbling on papers with bleeding fingertips, whispering answers through torn lips, desperate to pass an exam they'd never write. By the second time, things escalated. I was returning from prep when I saw it. A figure, a boy in ash grey shorts and an outdated St. Bart's crest. He stood by the paths to the Block D, face half lit by the flickering security lights. His mouth moved as if in prayer. When I blinked, he was gone, vanished. I rushed back to hostel, heart clawing at my ribs. Henry didn't believe me. You've been watching too many Nollywood horrors, he laughed. But that night, he woke up screaming. Ah! His mattress was soaked. Not sweat. Water. Muddy. Dark water. Like pond. Like it had been sipped from underground. His books, wet. His bedsheets, damp and cold. On his pillow, in red ink, was a single sentence. We didn't finish. Harry left the next morning. His parents came without question, eyes low, words tight-lipped. No one asked. Nobody stayed too long in the hostel after that. I should have begged my mother to pull me out too, but something about the mystery kept me rooted. I felt chosen or cursed. Either way, I needed answers. On a rainy Thursday night, I did the unthinkable. I snuck out. Armed with church, rosary, and the bravery only teenage foolishness can afford. I crept towards Block D. Thunder rumbled like a drum. The rain slapped the ground in angry bursts. The school buildings looked like broken teeth in the dark. I reached the sealed dome and stood before it. The rain had weakened the walls' paint, exposing faded nails scratched into walls. I touched one, Ebuka E. It felt warm. Then I heard it. Faint inside the walls, pencils scratching, pages turning, chalks screeching. I pressed my ear closer. A voice, present sir. My legs should have fled, but my hands moved instead. I pressed the rosary against the wall, and the bricks flickered. For a moment, the cement vanished, and I saw them. Rows of bunk beds, rusted. A blackboard still bearing the ghost of old lessons. Boys, pale, paper-skinned, sitting at the desks. Some looked at me, their face frozen in horror. Others continued to write, their eyes hollow, fingertips bloody. One stood at the back. He looked normal, alive, solid, until he opened his mouth. Will you help us? He asked. His eyes bled. The world around me snapped. I woke up in sickbay. The nurse said I had collapsed near the science block. There was no mention of Block D. No one mentioned the rain, or Henry, or the names on the wall. But from that day, everything changed. I saw them in mirrors, reflections of uniforms that no longer existed. I'd hear exam bells ringing during lunch. I'd open my locker to find pencils worn out to the bone. Books written in ancient ink, essays about events from 20 years ago. One day, I got called to the principal's office. He was a silent man, bowed, dark eyes that looked through you. He didn't ask how I was. He simply placed a brown envelope on the table. Inside were photographs, black and white shots, of the 2001 class. And at the back of each photo was a name, names I had seen on the bricks. He looked at me with hard eyes and said, "You opened the veil. We have kept them silent for years, but you," he pointed at my chest, "you angered them and they want you." Why? I asked, scared. He sighed. Because you angered them. Because you still believe. I didn't understand then, but that night, I dreamt again. Only this time, I was inside Block D, seated for an exam. The clock ticked backward. The paper in front of me had one question. What did the dead need to move on? I wrote, "Peace." My paper burst into flame. I woke up, gasping, blood dripping from my nose. The next morning, St. Bart's announced renovation. The boys cheered, but I knew they were sealing Block D again, making it tighter, erasing names. But that won't stop it. Last night, I found the paper under my pillow. A no one. Date, April 15th, 2001. Subject, final examination. Name, Ikenna, Irania. Instructions, do not leave the hall until all students have submitted. The air in my room turned cold. I looked up. There was someone sitting at my desk. Grey shorts, old badge, prefect badge, head boy. He smiled. "Are you ready to begin?" Dun. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button, leave me a comment, do well to subscribe, click on the notification button. I hope to see you in my next story, and don't look behind you after watching. Thanks.